How are you?
Good. How are you doing? Let
Good,
me
pretty good, pretty good.
get my get some pencil to
Mm-hmm.
write, take some notes.
Mm-hmm.
How was everything for you?
Oh, pretty good, pretty good. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the process of the HPLC. So yeah.
Oh, good. That's good to hear.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we'll wait for Bill
Mm-hmm.
and I think Q as well.
Yeah. So how are you? How's your first 2 weeks of the semester?
It's fine. Lectures are going okay. I'm teaching the first year PhD class
Oh,
in transport phenomena. So you took 540, right,
yeah.
with me?
Is it the
So it's
same?
just like it's very similar to 540. It just taught at a little more advanced level. So just you know, we go into a little bit more of the detail on the mathematical techniques, but in terms of the content, it's quite similar.
I see, I see.
So in fact, when I did 540, I basically just like I was a little bit lazy. I took a hybrid of notes from 620 and from 378, which was under. So I took a mixture of notes and just like kind of put them together.
I
So
see.
some of the lectures were just like undergrad lectures, and some of them were the PhD
Mm-hmm.
lectures.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it was like a mixture, and then the PhD is all PhD level. That's the only
Wow, yeah,
difference.
that's quite convenient, yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me just turn on the light. Hold on.
Mm-hmm. And are you back at the West
Yep.
Lafayette right now?
I'm in West Lafayette. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, the original plan was for me to be traveling to Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
on Mondays and Friday. So traveling to Chicago, so be in Chicago Monday and Friday. But I mean, the Delta variant has gotten worse in Chicago, and
Oh, yeah.
basically, uh, my wife's boss has allowed the employees to be more
Working from
flexible
home?
in their work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was
Yeah, I think it's safer
yeah. So
here than
I mean, the original
Chicago.
plan was for me to travel every week, but about a week into the semester, I mean, this all the plans changed. So now she just moved back into West Lafayette.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sounds like a
And we don't
plan.
know how long this will be. Maybe it'll only be for a few weeks
Yeah.
before maybe her boss will ask her to come back and work
Mm-hmm.
full time in Chicago. But at least for the next few weeks, it'll be like this.
I see, I see. Gotcha.
Yep. Yeah, I'm right now just basically just all these classes, but then I have to like recruit students, and I think qualifying exams are coming up. So I'm just actually was reading through
Oh.
Anirudh's qual's report, yeah, making corrections to that.
Hmm. And are you
Yep.
recruiting the new PhD student this year?
Well, yes, I'm gonna try to recruit. We'll see. I can recruit anywhere between. Well, I'm gonna try to recruit. I can recruit up to four. I don't think that's gonna. I don't think I'll end up having four, but that's the idea.
I see.
Because Charlie and Sungwei are going to
Graduate pretty
graduate,
soon. Mm.
so I need to have students that can replace
Mm.
their projects in some way, shape, or form. And then I have a funded project with Alina
Mm-hmm.
Alexenko in the Lio Hub, and I have a funded project with Ramki, Professor Ramkrishna,
Oh, okay.
also on statistical mechanics. So, I mean, at least for those two projects, I'm trying to get recruit students that will be co-advised, and then
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be trying to get some students that can replace the other students I have, right?
I
So
see. Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I mean, luckily Q actually is planning on staying longer, so
Oh.
he will be around for a while because he's also funded by Lio Hub, and we have
Mm-hmm.
this funding for like the next year and a half.
Wow.
Um, so he can stay, and he's planning on staying for a while. So at least, once you leave, there's going to be at least some stability in terms of this work, because Q can still work for a for for a while. I mean, ideally, it'd be nice to have someone else maybe come in and to help him out, so that I don't think he can work full time, but
Mm-hmm.
we'll see.
Yeah, I feel like we are like for our project, we have like utilized the lab setup that we had pretty much like everything that we can do, we did it and we tried something else. Yeah, I think it should be pretty much like done in the sense of the project itself that we can do in our lab.
Hmm. So, do you know if Q is joining ZG?
I think he had to pick up his family in the airport.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
that
Okay, yeah,
he'll
that's
be
right. Yeah. So
missing
that's
the
right. The
meeting
in-laws are
today.
coming. The in-laws are coming to take care of his kid. So
Yeah,
the
I'm so
child.
happy for
So
him.
he's
Yeah.
not able to come today. So that's fine. Then we can maybe you can have you can give your um, you can give the summary while we since you know that Q's not coming.
Yep.
Hey
Yeah.
Bill, how's everything going for you? How's
Hey
the
guys.
semester?
So far so good. How about you, Vivek?
It's been a little busy because now teaching again and it's teaching in front of a big class. There's like
What are you teaching this semester?
I'm teaching the first year graduate transport class. So there's 38 students actually in the class. Because they're not only is all the first year graduate students, there's a decent number of students from other departments that are taking the class, right? And yeah, and so we have to figure out exactly what to do now in terms of also office hours and social distancing. Are you teaching also a grad class?
Yeah, it's the healthcare delivery class that I've taught. I think this is the fourth time that I've taught it. So it's I'm finally in a somewhat of a groove where there's a fairly predictable routine. But of course the issue with this kind of course is that it constantly has to get updated as new medical information. Yeah, so it's a little bit different from I think the standard engineering class, but anyway, the students I like the class. They ask a lot of questions and there's a lot of interaction, so it's good.
This is mostly masters, right? The professional masters.
It's about half and half. It's about half graduate students and half undergrads. So
it's a pretty big class then, I think, right?
Well, it's 15. It's not huge. It's about a standard size for a 500 elective. So I not 38 and certainly not like the size that Ray Mincer has to teach. I think he said he's 170 or something like that.
Yeah, for the safety class.
Yeah, because I think the issue is it's not like, for all the other core classes in undergrad, it's offered every semester. But I think Ray's class is only because he travels, right? He's only offered that class. You can only take it one semester, and therefore the entire senior class takes it in. So it's a huge lecture hall. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For some reason, he and his wife didn't want to spend the winter in West Lafayette. They'd rather be in Texas. I don't know why they would want to do that, but
I know, like West Lafayette's the pinnacle of civilization.
Especially in January and February.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to be anywhere else, right?
You can go days without seeing the sun.
Exactly. The sun is overrated.
It just causes skin cancer and all kinds of bad things.
Everyone here has healthy skin. All right.
Yes. So we digress.
Yeah. Yeah. I would love to see like fewer people.
You can tell us exactly what's been going on the past week and a half.
Yeah.
Sorry, I guess I totally forgot about the meeting last week, so I missed it.
Yeah, I think that's totally fine. Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and start it. That is a presentation for last week and this week. So yeah, at the beginning we have 3 sample tests that I make to see if the dash trend is going to work in HPLC. And after this, Lindsay, the staff at the lower center, running 3 more standard tests to see if the column is actually working. And regarding the illusion mobile phase in the HPLC is the PBS buffer, just like what we are using. And the illusion flow rate is 0.6 milliliter per minute. And here are the preliminary results of our samples. At the top left-hand side is the dash trend 20K at 0.5 gram per liter concentration. And the bottom one is the dash trend 10K. And at the right bottom corner is the mixture of them both. And both of the concentration is 0.5 gram per liter. So as you can see, our dextran are pretty poorly dispersed. That I actually make a little movement graph for you to imagine. When the sample first enter or injected into the HPLC, is one peak, and after it move, because the poorly dispersed, so this is for the 20K as an examples. It's actually a combination from 15K to 25K. So the difference of the molecular weight will start to separate in itself. And so lastly, after a while ago, this is what it's gonna look like for the dextran 20K. And this is pretty similar the case for the dextran 10K as well. And the 10K will be the combination from 9K to 11K. Yeah, but this still shows a pretty similar pattern of the free peak as the 20K. So I want to show you guys the mixture at the bottom right. So when I mix them together, the overall trend is more like the dextran 10Ks rather than the 20K. So I have a feeling that when we have both 10K and 20K mixture together, they are not separating with each other. The differences between them is really small, so that the 10K is covering or overlapping with the 20K dextran that we see in their mixture.
So I want to ask then, so you're doing this, you're basically running this through a column, right?
Right.
So if you run for a longer period of time through the column, or have a longer column, it would eventually elute, and you'll see different peaks, right?
Yeah.
So maybe what column are you using here? Is your column maybe? You're looking at different columns. So can we just explain a little bit?
Yeah, I think to explain that I have to open the PowerPoint from last time. I think probably August. Yep. So we have two columns here actually. The one is the smaller one that we can have like better resolution in the sense of the images that we can see like a larger curve. But also we have a much longer columns from 6K Dalton to 10 million Dalton. So with these such long columns, when you have in terms of the images, the curve will become really, really small, and it's hard to like integrate the area underneath it. So our best possible solution, if we want to see the integrated area of each curve, it's best to use the smaller column that we can have better resolution in that sense. And this one is the smaller column that we can see. It's actually pretty clear that we can see the small differences of the 20K and 10K. And yeah, since we only have one material in there, so this column will be looks pretty good. When we have for example, when we have BSA, like the Bowen's of serum albumin, it will have another curve at the left hand side expected. Yeah, I will cover that later. So for now, I think from these three graphs, we can see that when we are using the smaller column, we aren't able to get the separation from 10K and 20K at the time of the 30 minutes span. Yeah.
Okay, so you can't do that, but you can clearly distinguish between any type of these two dextrans from BSA. That's what it seems like.
Yeah, the main reason is just the 10K and 20K is too close together, so they are kind of blending together. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're trying to do any experiments, though, you're not going to be using. I want to make sure I understand, Bill. I mean, are we planning on using dextrans, a mixture of different types of dextrans, or
no? Only the 20K. Yeah. Only the 20K.
Just use one dextran and BSA, right?
Right.
So
right.
That's what's more important, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And these results would strongly argue against the idea that we could discriminate between the 10 and 20K dextran. It just doesn't seem possible. I mean, when I look at this, just a question, ZG. Why do you think that because if you look at the elution times, they're basically the same. So why do you think that the 20K should elute faster, right? So
Yes.
why do you think that in fact, the 20K, if anything, looks a little bit slower if the scale is the same?
Actually, yeah. When in terms of faster and slower, I think the 20K should elute slower because it's heavier than the 10K. So it will be more like towards the left hand side. So and regarding the 10K, it will elute faster. And what I think that is causing is because that for the 20K is poorly dispersed from 15 to 25. So we have 15, I would say, over here, and the heaviest 25 is on the leftmost. So, and the way we are seeing this is so close because the 15K is actually pretty close to the 10Ks. It's not that much of a difference that will cause a big shift that you can see between is faster or slower. So I would think, yeah, you can see this one is a little bit toward like before it's 14, but for the 20K it's past the 14th line, but the difference is really, really small. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not entirely sure I agree with this, just because, if the 10K, so the smaller molecular weight stuff will move faster through, that's fine, but that means that even if the 15 matches up with the 10K, the other peaks then should be also shifted, be faster than the 10K, right?
Yeah.
I don't think what you're saying is consistent with that. Okay, but you're getting some type of peak, right?
Yeah, we are getting some types of peaks.
And I don't know, and it's not clear. I mean, if it seems like if we can't distinguish between 10K and 20K, then obviously within the 20K dextran, it probably won't be able to distinguish between the different molecular weights very easily, right? I mean, you'll get some pattern, but it's not clear if you can correlate that.
Yeah, it's hard to correlate.
Molecular weight.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that like since we're only injecting one material, so I would believe this curve is totally belonging to the dextran 20Ks, and this curve and is showing is belonging to the dextran 10Ks. Yeah, yes, I think that can be sure regarding the uniquity that this one is belonging to the dextran 20K. And yeah, also regarding, so this is the refractive index for the dextran 20Ks. It has its own refractive index, and the dextran 10Ks, it has its quite difference of the refractive index diagram from the 20K. So yeah, I would expect they will be different. Yeah.
So you guys, I think I'm not an HPLC expert, so I think I've completely missed the boat, because I was thinking that, so this is a bead column, right? Or what is the actual structure of the column?
It is a size exclusion column, so it's a long column, and so it would be like, so this is the beginning of the columns. When it enter it, it will slowly separating because of the differences of the molecular weight inside the materials, and so it would itself separating from itself, and finally see the curve like this, and yeah, so that's why we are seeing these three peaks for a single dextran. And regarding the way it moves and slowly or faster, and how the shapes looks like, I think it's gonna be totally depending on the dextran that we are seeing here, and it's hard to explain like why it looks like this, or but what is more important is the retention time it is at. The retention time, which is the maximum of the peak, the value will be used to determine, are we measuring the dextran or are we measuring the dextran 10K or 20K. So that I think that will make a difference. And I think I can go ahead and start it, and I can answer all of your questions later after I show you the all of the portions.
Just a quick question though, and
Yeah.
I may, again, if I completely missed the boat here. So for size exclusion chromatography, so the support structure is excluding both the 10 and 20K completely. There's no entry in of either of those molecules into the structure of the support itself. So then, as you suggest, if both those compounds are size excluded, then it just becomes a molecular weight issue that like you said, the lighter molecule, smaller molecular weight molecule is going to
move faster.
Proceed. So then, okay, well, I had a different assumption that the way that the column was packed and structured, that it would be a different profile. But so, okay, I'm sorry. I'm talking to myself now.
It's fine. I think I can give you a more understanding of the column. So the column is called like size exclusion. It's also called the gel permeation. So the column is going to be filled with gel or some kind of aqueous gel, and it will like have a friction with the dextran 20Ks. So with the smaller size, it can move faster because there are poles in the gels that you can, for smaller molecules to pass through. But for larger moleculars, it will move slowly. It will have to like squeezing in through the gel, and so that it will kind of move slower than the smaller column. So yeah, I think that's the main ideas.
So the pore size of the support structure is such that, again, it excludes both.
Exclude both, yeah.
And 20K.
Yeah, exclude both, yeah.
All right, so.
Yeah, it's not quite like a membrane. It's just making everything move slower, and the lighter one, the 10K, will move faster in that case, and the 20K will like struggle a little bit more than the 10K, so that it's gonna move slower. Yeah.
Okay. So it's but it's not physically entering the porous structure of the support. It's just it's a path length phenomenon, and
yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. Yeah. And regarding the, like, we can see like a small dent here in the 24, and this phenomenon is caused by the PBS solution. So this is the refractive index diagram for the pure PBS background solution. The scale is really small. It's from 0 to 0.14, and previously we are looking at 1.5. So this scale is really small, but it's there. So for at the 24 retention time, there are a small dent. This is what we're seeing, and there are a bigger dent, but not still compared to here is still not a lot, but it's causing a small dent between the 14 minutes and 16 minutes, but it's already like included in here. So if it wasn't the PBS solution, if it's water, it will be higher. But since there are PBS background solution we are using, this will happen in all of our samples. But we won't.
This basically explains the 3 peaks you see, because if you get like the dip in your you get like a negative value, right, around 14 and 16, right? If you had like if your dextran gave you 1 peak, that your PBS gives like a negative 2 peaks.
Oh yeah.
That'll give you the 3 peaks.
Yeah, that would fit perfectly in here. Yeah. If it's like a whole peak here.
It's not separating this is not separating the different molecular weights, right?
Yeah.
It just, this phenomenon you're seeing is 3 peaks is purely due to whatever. I don't know why PBS gives this, but it's giving you this.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
PBS, right?
Yeah, thank you, Professor Nelson-Ham. Yeah, that's really helps a lot. Yeah. Yeah, and so this is our the refractive index diagrams. We also do the 3 standard tests. I don't know if you guys have time to see the emails between me and Q. he mentioned that so we also do the standard test. This is the standard test. It classifies the red standard, yellow standard, and a green standard. So there are just 4 peaks. I don't know if it's because of the backgrounds or what, but this is the standard. And what it is, I'm going to show you to the next slide here. So for the red standard, it has 4 pretty large, or not large, 4 different molecular weight. And for the yellow, it has 4 different molecular weight as well. So altogether, they will have a pretty large range from a really large molecular weight from 1 million and I think it's 1,500,000 to a
1.5
really
megawatts.
yeah
I'm not wrong. That's right. 1.5, times 10 to
yeah
the
1.5
sixth.
million yeah
1.5 million.
yeah molecular weight to a really small molecular weight, so that with these standards, it will give us some pretty good calibration curve of at what molecular weight correspond to what retention times, if that is. And when we take the natural log of the molecular weight and plot it with the retention time, we can see the calibration curve here.
Okay.
So that basically when we have molecular weight and for example 15 kilodalton, we can have expected retention times based on the standards. So, but unfortunately, the standard here that we're using, the red, yellow, and green, are for the albumin. It's not for dextrans. They don't have the dextran standards because it's not very common in the agricultural departments at the lower center. So we can only have the albumin standard to actually prove this column is actually working, but we can't use it for a standard of the dextrans.
Okay. So you basically, so this is experimental data that you collected for different albumins.
This is the Lindsay did that for me to make sure the column is in working order. Yeah.
Okay. So she did this for different albumins, and and this is what is expected to get out, right? This is exactly what. Okay. So that's good. So that means so at least the column works.
Yeah.
And so for the BSA, can you tell me for BSA what is the molecular weight of BSA again?
66 kilodalton. Yep. So it was expected at 11.72. So this is actually correct for the standard, regarding the standard wise. So regarding the BSA, we will be expecting to see around here a peak. 17.7, 11.7. So around here. Yeah.
Okay, and how broad will you expect it to be?
It's not. I can't say it for sure, but regarding so it would be look like this. Regarding the standard 11.7, yeah, it would be something like this.
You guys, I at the risk of embarrassing myself, so go back, Zuji, to the standard curve. Okay, now I look at that and there's an inverse relationship between retention time and molecular weight. So in other words, the larger molecule is going to elute from the column faster, correct?
Yeah, regarding the retention time, so this is although it's talking the natural log, it's still the larger molecular weight here at the top. So it will move slower at the smaller retention time. So yeah, I can explain it here. So the retention time at 9 minutes here, I can extract. So at 9 minutes, here is the larger molecular, and here it will be smaller and smaller and smaller. So yeah, so that's why it's showing the relationship is at the higher, it will gonna be at the more towards the entrance, and because as the time moves, it will move along the way. So that's why the column is classified or noted as the retention time. As the time moves longer, the distance also moves longer as well. Yeah.
Wait, sorry. Just repeat that one more time, so I understand exactly what you're saying. So, can you define the retention time, and can you define?
That's my question. Is retention time, is that correlated with the time at which a compound elutes from the column, or I thought that was, but maybe not.
Yeah, I think if we see the x-axis as the column length, then so at the first minute it will be so we have the length here, the column length. At the first minute it will be entering, and when the time moves, it will. So here will be, let's say, 5 minutes, and after it moves a little bit to 10 minutes to 12 minutes, it will be looks like this. So this is the converting from the column length to the retention time, because the retention time will be more accurate in the sense of So as time moves, the material also move in the column as well. So we are moving from like 10 to 12 to like 14 to 16, for example. So that's why we are like seeing the retention time in the x-axis instead of the column length. Yeah, but it's a pretty similar idea.
So a low retention time means that it elutes from the column. So a compound that has a low retention time elutes from the column at much later time than a compound that has a higher retention time, right?
Yeah.
So you have two compounds, one with low retention time and one with high retention time. The one with high retention time will elute from the column first. Is that the idea?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so we will be expecting the BSA around here.
I'm blanking on it. That's not adding up. So, but maybe it's a terminology issue, because I was always under the impression that retention time, like I said, was correlated. It's the hang-up time in the column.
Yes.
So if the retention time is longer, then the point at which the elution occurs would be later. But again, maybe
I'm also a little confused by this as well, Bill. So I think we want to kind of clarify the definition of all these, exactly what you mean and what it says by minutes at the x-axis, to make sure that we're on the same page. But I mean, the point is that you're saying that you expect to see a peak
around here.
11.
Yeah, right? 11. Yeah, 11.7. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess the important thing is Ziju, whether we'll figure out the retention time versus the elution time, but the important thing is, at the end of the day, is whether the peak is going to be able to be discriminated. The peak for BSA is going to be able to be discriminated from the 20 or the 10K.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think so. I think we're on the same page that this refractive index for the dash strand 20K is going to work. And I think for some reason it's for the 10K. I feel like it is going to work as well, but from Dr. Antonio, who is also using the HPLC, a similar experiment setup with us, saying that the 10K will be not working. But it seems to me probably it's going to have a not very good separation, but I will have to actually see the experiments with the BSA, with the dash strand together and have a conclusion. But what he suggests is the dash strand 20K will be the better candidate for our experiments. And we will be seeing the separation from the BSA at the 11.7s and the dash strand on the right hand side. Yeah.
So I want to ask, I mean, can you correct your, so can you do some post-processing and correct for also the effect of PBS? So then, that should get rid of the two peaks. I mean, it should become one peak at a particular molecular weight. And you probably, if you do that, you may be able to get a better
Integrated area?
maybe get a better way of distinguishing, right, between.
I think I can do that. Yeah.
It's a good point, because if you just look at that, your first reaction would be that those separate peaks are maybe the result of polydispersivity, if that's the right word. But if it's due to the PBS effect, that would, like Dr. Narasimha said, it would kind of smooth the curve.
Yes.
Yeah, I would expect you to get actually just one broad peak. That's it.
And
even the breadth of the curve, I guess, would still indicate the degree of polydispersion.
But also that means, so if you take that into account, if you have one broad peak for your dextran, and you have another peak that's somewhere else that's related to to BSA, you probably have a better idea of distinguishing it this way than if you had this like 3 peaks plus another peak of BSA. I mean, it may be harder to distinguish between them, right?
Yeah, and thanks to Q, he's using the region mathematical software that he can like capture the integrated area for each peak, and all of them together as well. So we will have no problem when we're doing it this way. Yeah, I totally agree with that, to like compensate the PBS in the background and adding it up to here to make it a complete peak, and using the software to get the integrated area together. It will make more clear sense. Yeah, that is absolutely correct.
You can correlate that to concentration and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
I think that would make you, hopefully give you a much more accurate idea what's happening.
Yeah, exactly. And and all the sample here are the pure sample that hasn't gone through the membranes. So I think for examples, if the dextran, for example, at 25K is not gonna sieving through the membrane, I think we are likely to see this phenomenon here. So this is the pure solution, 20K solution, and after through the membrane, if some part of the larger size molecular weight can't see through, we might have we will see a retention time to move to the right a little bit. Yeah, this is also a retention time issue. I'll probably cover more about this retention time and the elution time concept in the next meeting. But today I just want to show you that like even if the 25K, the larger size dextran, is won't able to sieving through the membrane, we will be able to still get the clearance at different times from the fractions of the different concentration. So yeah. And regarding the next step, I have talked to Lindsay. She's pretty free next week. So I think for the next week, we can see the dextran 20K, same concentration, and we can put it in the BSA solutions and see if we can actually get a separations from the dextran 20K. If it works, we will do the calibration test with the dextran 20K at different level with the BSA solution and see the fractions.
Yeah, and I want to make sure your PBS solution, are you using the same PBS solution for everything or what?
I'm sorry, it's the BSA solution. So with the BSA, we have like the albumin in there, so we will hopefully seeing a separation. And with the calibration, I want to include the BSA is because that in our actual samples, we will have BSA that is in our samples. Like even
so this BSA solution, what is in the BSA solution? Is BSA and just water, or is it BSA and
it's BSA in PBS. Yeah, I think you're exactly right.
And I'm asking, are you using a different I just want to make sure, are you using the same PBS solution as you were these other ones?
Exactly.
That should be fine.
And Professor Clark, I thought you remember you mentioned about the 6%, the 6% BSA. Is it the 6 gram per liter or
6 grams per deciliter.
deciliter?
So that would be 60 grams per liter.
Oh, okay, 60 gram per liter.
And that's just to replicate approximately the total protein concentration in plasma.
I see, I got you. Yeah, I would check if you see if we have the like enough BSA to make the solution. Okay, yeah, this seems
I mean,
quite
you
a
also
lot.
don't have to use, maybe you don't have to use also the same amount. I mean, you don't have to necessarily have like a lot of solution if you're trying to just do a calibration, right?
Oh yeah, right. You're right.
So you don't have to have like a liter of it. You can have like, I don't know how much you need for this. Only a certain number, maybe a few milliliters, right?
Yeah. But when we come to the actual like clearance experiment, I will have to think about the inventory problems to see if we have enough
Yeah.
BSA. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I'll probably do it like as soon as next Monday to see if we can get a separation between them. And yeah, regarding I've talked to like a lot of people. The Dr. Mosir is the director of the agriculture. Is the ABE, Agriculture Biological Engineering, and he's the director of the Lindsay, my lower agent. So I asked him like, can I actually separate the dash strands with the BSA solution in there so that I can use the refractometer to get the concentration? And he said like in theory yes, but because due in practical the injection amount is really small. It's only 20 microliter. So the recovered product will be really small and highly diluted. It's not going to be able to capture in our refractometer. So this is not an option. And when we are using the refractive index detector in the HPLC, we will be getting the concentration related from the area of the peaks and getting the clearance level. Yeah, so he said, so I think it's highly confident about the calibration and also our samples. So yeah, I think we are in a pretty good place according to Dr. Musir.
Okay. And I want to get an idea for the timeline for this HPLC experiment. How long will it take? Will it be done basically next week?
So if you can see that like, so each cycle is around 30 minutes for each injection.
Yep.
Yeah, each injection. So usually, Lindsay will do a duplicate injection to see they're actually identical to make sure it's gonna work. But they're still gonna charge me like one injection, but they would just do a duplicate just to be sure. And so I would say like for the sample test for this one injection, it's gonna probably take like an afternoon. If we're doing the calibration, it will probably take a day to run and analyze it we take another day until Lindsay report back to me. So I would say hopefully we can get it done by next week. Okay. And yeah, and we have when we're doing the actual clearance experiment, we will be one experiment is pretty similar to the calibration. I plan to have like around 4 points to get the clearance level. Yeah, and regarding the actual HPLC clearance experiment, so when we're doing the HPLC, we are using BSA, and when we're using BSA, that means there are fouling to the membrane. So I want to ask a question. So, for example, for the first week, since right now I'm using the NIPO 17H, I think we can continue to use the NIPO 17H to do 2 experiments in the first week. And I'm wondering what would be the fouling. Is it can it like do 2 experiments in a row and have a good idea of what is coming out? Like how many experiments can I do with a fouling membrane?
Yeah, I mean, I think we might have briefly touched on this before, ZG. I think once what you can do is foul the filter just by recirculating the 6% BSA solution for an hour or so, in that range, 45 minutes to an hour. And then that filter can be used, hard to say exactly how many times, but the especially if you were doing just PBS based clearances, that filter could be used multiple times, and for instance, overnight, stored in the refrigerator, and then used on subsequent days without difficulty. Now, obviously, it's different than if you foul the filter first and then use a BSA containing solution for the clearance studies. That's a little bit different, because then the filter is going to continue to get fouled during the course of each experiment. But just for PBS experiments, clearance or sieving coefficient, you can foul it first and then use it repeatedly.
Yeah, but I think the idea of like fouling the membrane first and then run the PBS solution to simulate the fouling effect is based on that we don't have the HPLC capability. But right now we have the HPLC. I think we can just use the Nipro and use the Destran and the BSA to use it and fouling at the same times. And then we can wash it overnight, and then we can continue to use it for another experiment, right? And
yeah, the problem is you're incorporating a variable.
Yeah.
If you reuse the same filter, like I was saying, if the test solution includes BSA, then you're comparing apples to oranges, because the first day the experiments are done, or the first set of experiments, the membrane's been fouled to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And then if you expose it to BSA again and again and again,
you're getting worse and worse. Yeah.
The extent of fouling is going to change.
got you.
So it's a moving target.
I got you. Yeah, I will think more about this part. Yeah, and
but part of the experimental plan was to do just PBS with dextran. So again, for both clearance and sieving coefficient, with a fouled filter, that would be fine, I think.
Okay.
Because I think the discussion we had was to actually do it in succession. The baseline would be foul the filter, do the experiments just in PBS, and then after that, after establishing that baseline, then move on to protein containing test solutions.
I see. Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
But it gets trickier. Just one last comment. It gets trickier with that second set of experiments, because we probably have to use a different filter for each BSA containing test solution exposure. So I guess we can cross that bridge when we come to it, in terms of how are we going to get a hold of enough dialyzers to do those studies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any comments?
I want to also just ask a question. I mean, even before we did the whole fouling aspect, I mean, one question I wanted kind of you to answer and verify with experiments was to you mentioned to me that you believe that that if you don't have any fouling, basically the sieving coefficient is 1 for all these dextrans, right?
But under one condition. So the sieving coefficient, I have been thinking a lot about this. So the sieving coefficient that we did is the dead end mode, that we have one input, one output. So eventually it will be 1, the sieving coefficient. But that is still happening along the time. So for example, I think when the sieving coefficient to be actually 1, it's going to take 20 minutes of the dead end mode running the system. So, but when we are doing not the dead end mode, when we're doing the hemodialysis mode, for 0 minute to 60 minutes, we probably won't get to the one sieving coefficient. It's probably gonna be in the middle. Yeah, in the middle way. Yeah. So.
I'm not sure I follow that, ZG.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I think I can.
when you say that the sieving coefficient should be time independent.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, in a PBS, in an experiment where there's no concern about fouling of the membrane, then whether you measure the sieving coefficient at 5 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour, it should be about the same.
Yeah. So regarding the actual, like the real sieving coefficient, I haven't done the experiment yet, but the previous experiment I done with the sieving coefficient is the dead end mode with under like 20 minutes of time. It actually becomes sieving coefficient eventually become 1, but that is happening like quite over time. It will, so at the beginning, and this dead end mode is different from the hemodialysis we are doing it right now. So I just want to like thinking that the sieving coefficient is not like necessarily 1 when we're doing the hemodialysis mode. Yeah, it's just the idea.
Yeah, I think we may have covered this before, though. You can't really get a sieving coefficient in the dialysis mode. It has the filter has to be operated in the filtration mode. So I'm not sure exactly what you mean there, but I mean, what I would recommend is just operate the filter for the sieving coefficient. So now we're just talking about PBS test solution experiments, is just run the filter in the usual filtration mechanism, not dead end. So
yeah,
the solution is entering the filter at the arterial end, it's leaving at the venous end. There's a certain filtrate that's produced at a specified ultrafiltration rate, let's say 50 mils per minute. And then you have your standard configuration for measuring sieving coefficient, and you can recycle the filtrate so that you don't lose the product, so to speak.
But yeah, the other thing about the sieving coefficient is it has to be under the BSA solution as well. So that means there are fouling, right? So it has to be a brand new.
What I wanted to understand. So the main point I wanted to understand is before he started the fouling. No, so Farzad did a bunch of experiments and showed that for vitamin B12 and for myoglobin, right? So so I mean the molecular weight was, was 0.5 kilodaltons and 17 kilodaltons, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Those are the two. That the clearance was exactly the same, right? For inside out versus outside in, right? When there is no net ultrafiltration.
Yeah, I think for the myoglobin, the sieving coefficient from his model is 0.33. So yeah, it's not exactly 1. So I think the point is like when it's dead end mode, it will be 1 over a long amount of time. But when there are hemodialysis mode,
sorry to interrupt, but this is where I'm not understanding, and maybe it's a terminology thing. A molecule of myoglobin size, or let's say a 20K dextran, it shouldn't have a sieving coefficient of 1 at any point for this filter. So I'm still struggling to understand when you say that the sieving coefficient will eventually be 1. I'm not really following that.
Yeah, I think that's the problem with the dead end mode, because what's coming in must coming out. So eventually, when we're seeing the membrane, the left hand side, the concentration is starting to build up because there are only one way out. It will build up really high, and so that the concentration will be at the left hand side will be equal to the right hand side, just because this is just the one way out is set up. But for the actual hemodialysis, I was making the sieving coefficient experiment wrong. I think that's on me because I haven't fully understand the idea of the time dependent issue there. So I was causing a lot of mess back then. Yeah, so I believe the serum coefficient for the myoglobin is around 0.33 or even 0.28 regarding from the NIPRO reported. Yeah, so it's not exactly one.
If the point, anyway, like I want before you did fouling, I wanted to understand what is the clearance. The main thing we're trying to understand is the mass transfer. How does mass transfer? How is mass transfer when we put it inside out versus the outside in?
Right.
Okay, so Farzad did clearance measurements for B12 and also myoglobin.
Yes.
Under no net ultrafiltration. Okay, for the particular membrane that he was using, I don't remember exactly what it was. It was a Rexseed, I believe.
Yeah, Rexseed.
Okay?
Yeah.
And he found that the clearance was essentially the same. Okay, for both those, right?
Yeah.
And then the question was, and I said that makes sense because if you're looking at primarily diffusive clearance, right? I mean, there's going to be some convective clearance as well, but I mean, if you look at diffusive clearance, I mean, it doesn't really matter what orientation your membrane is. I mean, what orientation you're going, because it's whether you have concentration this way or here.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to get the same type of flux occurring. Right?
Yeah.
So that makes sense that outside in and inside out is the same. Now,
yeah. Yes.
The only way that you would get maybe a difference in the mass transfer characteristics is if there is net ultrafiltration, right, in one direction versus the other.
Yeah.
And the sieving coefficient is slightly different in one direction versus the other, right? Because if the sieving coefficient was the same in either direction, it wouldn't matter if you have net ultrafiltration as well, right?
Yeah.
For inside out versus outside in.
Yeah.
But if there is a slight difference in the sieving coefficients, then you would expect that having a net ultrafiltration could change the mass transfer for inside out versus outside in. And what I wanted to understand was, even before you did fouling, what was going on in the unfouled case. You have the main thing I wanted to understand was your claim was that the sieving coefficient was going to be roughly the same when you do in one direction versus the other direction for these molecules when the membrane isn't fouled. That's what your claim was. But I wanted you to kind of verify that.
Okay.
Did you look into that or no?
Actually, no. Yeah, regarding the sieving coefficient, I can get a rough idea that when we are using inside out versus outside in, I was also doing it at the zero ultrafiltration mode. So there are not much difference. There is. I haven't done the.
So maybe can you explain to me what you did, even in the zero ultrafiltration mode, so I get an idea? Because I was asked also for you to kind of clarify what to replicate what Farzad did, right? To make sure you were confident in your measurements.
Yeah. So yeah, I have also done the clearing experiments last week. So yeah, I want to just review about what Farzad has done. The myoglobin in the Rexy 21R with the myoglobin is zero ultrafiltration. So my experiment is on the NIPRO 17H, same myoglobin, same zero ultrafiltration, but the data is not exactly the same due to there are two different dialyzers. And I do a sanity check that is proposed by Professor Nonsonham, that we use Rexys on the Rexy on the same myoglobin and zero ultrafiltration, but the result is slightly higher than the NIPRO, but not as much as what Farzad has, because of the damage of the Rexy 21R that is stored in our lab. Because it has been storing for a long time, the fiber has been dry because they have been lying down. This part is the part that when it's first drying out, the water level dropped down and then leaving this fiber to dry and it's not able to work. this is the picture is captured while I was running the experiment, and there are no liquid or any flow through this large area. So that is causing this clearance level is not as much as what Facade did, but it's definitely higher than what the Nipro has, though.
And it's higher roughly by the factor of the area, right? Or no?
I can't say like what amount of the surface area it is actually, and what the volume it is actually inside, but yeah, it's higher than about like 20%. Yeah, higher.
Okay.
But
So
it should be this as high as what Facade has, but due to the
so then I'll make sure that when you were looking at vitamin B12, you're also not able to get the same clearance as far as that.
I
Right?
actually did the same. It's the same clearance as Facade has. Yeah, regarding the
For vitamin B12.
vitamin
even though-
B12. Yeah, exactly.
Even though you're having the same drying issue.
Oh no, this is the new one. You remember when I get the project from Facade?
Yeah.
There are Rex 21R has been installed the whole time with with the labs experiment setup. It was okay. It was working perfectly fine. But due to we have the Nipro, I exchanged it. And back then I didn't know I can hold the dialyzer with water with liquid. So I would just leave it there, and now I would imagine it's not working, and I thought that I have still a lot of this spare to use, but actually they were has this kind of dryness happening in there. I don't know if this dryness is gonna influence the rest of them, but for this one there are no liquids is passing
So
through.
what I understand is you were able to replicate Farzad's results for vitamin B12.
Exactly.
You got the exact clearance level. But that was an experiment that happened a long time ago before this Rexy dried out.
Yeah,
Now the Rexy dried out, and you're trying to replicate his experiments for myoglobin, and you're clearly getting lower clearance because
of the
there's only a
dryness.
certain fraction of the fibers are
Exactly.
undergoing mass transfer.
Right.
Okay. So I mean, okay, so that's fine. But you're able to get some results for Nipro, and you're confident in your Nipro results.
Yeah,
right?
and actually, I have invited last week on with the experiment on the Dastran 20K. Yeah, I'm gonna first covering the Dastran 20K clearing experiments that I did with Q. I think this time Q was actually doing the experiment himself, and I was there just giving him some guidance, and he was able to pull the experiment through. So yeah, I determined the concentration for the Dastran 20K is assuming the clearance behavior of the Dastran 20K is going to be similar to the myoglobins because of they are similar in the molecular weight. So this at the left hand side are the clearance data for myoglobin, and then I normalize it, and then I increase to 2 grams per liter, and I converted the concentration to the refractive index based on the calibration curve.
Okay.
And I converted to 2 grams per liter, converted to 3 grams per liter, and 4 grams per liter. And lastly, we decided to use the 4 grams per liter because the differences is a little bit larger than the accuracy range claimed by the refractometer. So that we decided to use the 4 grams per liter, and here are the results. So from 0 to 16 to 17 minutes, we are getting the refractometer value here and converted them to the concentration. And the alpha value is 0.029.
Okay, so that means Dextran has a very low clearance.
Lower clearance
Okay.
than the myoglobin. Yeah.
Is that what you would expect, Bill?
From what I understand about this filter, yes.
Yeah. Would you expected to get this so he had what were you getting before? You were getting 0.4 before, right?
Yeah.
For myoglobin, how much?
0.041. I think it's
0.041. Okay.
0.041 with the myoglobin. Yeah. So a little bit less than the myoglobin. Yeah, and I will. And there's another thing. So for the Dastran 20 case, I did the calibrations from 1 gram per liter to like 0 gram per liter, there are 4 points. And I also did the calibration curve from 4 gram per liter to 1 gram per liter. Their calibration curves is a little bit different. And so for the 4 gram per liter to 1 gram per liter, and the alpha value is actually a little bit different, slightly smaller. It's 0.026 compared to 0.029. The alpha value due to the calibration difference,
but not that much different. Yeah.
Not that much different, yeah. But compared to the myoglobin, it's slightly worse for the clearance sense.
So I mean, you're confident in your clearance measurements.
Yeah, pretty confident. Yeah.
At zero ultrafiltration, which is good, and this is even without doing any fouling in your membrane.
Yeah.
That's good. So the question is then. So this is the conventional, and if you obviously if you did the outside in, and you would get the same result, right?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah, but that was the case for the vitamin B12. I haven't had time to do the outside in regarding the myoglobin or the dextran 20K. And
I imagine you'd get the same results. But then the question is then, if you did then with ultrafiltration, would you see slightly different results or not? I don't have a good idea, and the only way you know is if you know that if the sieving is significantly different in one direction versus the other. And I don't know how you said you're still having trouble doing the sieving measurement.
Yeah, the sieving measurement is probably not available for us right now because of its including fouling in there. So my next move is gonna be doing.
But you can do sieving measurements without fouling, right?
Yes, but I don't have like a good benchmark. Well, am I doing it right? Because I have a good benchmark with the fouling ones, with the BSA that is provided by the factory. It had the value. Go ahead, Professor Clark.
No, I was going to say, Gigi, I'll send you a paper that lays out the way that sieving coefficient should be measured in the kind of conventional filtration mode. I mean, it's very simple. It's just a beaker that has fluid directed and enters the filter. That fluid then leaves the filter and returns to the beaker, along with the filtrate that's generated also returns to the beaker. And then, if there are no fouling considerations, then the sieving coefficient could be, like I said before, it could be measured at 5 minutes, it could be measured at 60 minutes, it could be measured at 2 hours, and it should be about the same. Now, obviously, when fouling's occurring, it's going to be a different story. So I would suggest for the sieving coefficients, both inside out and outside in, to use the configuration that you'll see in this paper.
Okay, I'll definitely, if I'm going to.
I mean, I just want to get an idea. Your claim is you believe that without fouling, that sieving coefficients will be roughly the same.
Yeah.
In either direction. If that's the case, then it doesn't really matter what mode of dialysis we're doing. If it's not fouled, it'll basically be the same. Which would be an interesting point.
Right.
But then I always think if you should do that, then add the layers of complexity. So look, don't consider fouling first. Try to understand everything that's happening. Then you do fouling, because that's another layer of complexity.
So you suggest me to do the sieving first with zero ultrafiltration and then outside in versus inside out?
No, so maybe let's just make sure we're on the same page. To talk about measuring a sieving coefficient with zero ultrafiltration, again, it doesn't.
Oh yeah, it's
that doesn't make sense.
Supposed to be
you've
60.
Got to have I tell you what. Take a look at the paper that I send, and then we can. I think it'll be pretty self-explanatory.
Okay, yeah.
So, a couple of things. I want to make sure you've gotten a clearance measurement for myoglobin, right?
Yes.
For the conventional mode. Okay, so now the non-conventional mode, which is outside in, right? want to see if you are able to get the same clearance measurement. And if that's the case, then we're confident um, in your ability to do this, right?
Yeah, so yeah, that's what I thought as well. I thought we could probably do the clearance experiment first, then the sieving coefficient experiment. I think the
And
clearance
then
will.
I would say, yeah, then you look at the sieving of the membrane in one direction versus the other direction, right? For maybe myoglobin or maybe 20K dextran, and see whether the sieving coefficient is significantly different from the inside of the fiber to the inner fiber space, and vice versa.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
If the sieving coefficients are significantly different in one direction versus the other, then we would expect that running dialysis with a nut ultrafiltration could give different results for mass transfer when you're doing outside in versus inside out.
So can I
right?
confirm one thing? Is with the ultrafiltration, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but only if the sieving coefficients are significantly different. If the sieving coefficients are the same in one direction versus the other, you would expect that doesn't matter what you're doing for ultrafiltration. You
Yeah,
expect the
yeah.
results to be the same.
That's right. That's right.
And so this is why it's the kind of, I think, how you think about this. And once you kind of got an idea of how everything works now without any fouling, then it's important. Then you can do the same type of experiments, but foul your membrane with BSA first, right?
Yeah.
I think that's like at least to me that makes sense in terms of the path going forward, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the most efficient pathway, and then save the most complex situation, which would be, more akin to the actual clinical situation, where with each filter, it would just be like a 6% BSA solution with, let's say 20K dextran. But then doing the same kind of experiments, both clearance and sieving coefficient.
Yeah.
But I think what Dr. Narasimhan laid out, kind of stepwise, that makes the most sense.
Yeah, but I do think you can still have some the people in Lori do some of the dextran measurements to see whether you can distinguish between BSA and dextran.
Yeah, I will do it like simultaneously. That's for sure.
You're not doing those experiments; they're doing it, but at least it'll give you information in the future whether you can use, the size exclusion chromatography with the refractive index to distinguish between those two populations.
Yeah, actually, I was trying to do the clearing experiment with the ultrafiltration with the dextran 20K. But on Wednesday, the DI water tap is really slow, so that I was not able to make the PBS solutions. And,
I see.
Yeah, and on Friday, on yesterday, the DI tap water is not just low, it dies. And I was not able to like make the PBS.
So is this a problem throughout Forney? Is this a problem only in our lab?
I asked Chen Wei. He said it's probably a problem throughout the whole building, but I sent I think it's Nick and Jeffrey an email and said to reply today they are still working on this issue. Yeah, so I was going to do the clearing experiment today with the dextran and see like if the clearance is going to be different with the ultrafiltration rate outside in versus inside out. But yeah, due to the DI water failure, I was still waiting on it to come out to make the PBS solution.
You guys, I've gotten a couple of text messages that I was supposed to join a call 10 minutes ago. So, like I said, Ziji, I will send you that paper, and maybe just along with that email, just confirm what we just talked about, kind of what the sequence would be. And then I guess, Vivek, maybe we can consider at some point in the next couple of weeks, do we need to send some kind of progress report to Novaflux just to kind of keep them in the loop?
Yeah, we probably should just to get an idea and give them an idea, so they're not thinking we're just kind of
Yeah.
took money and ran away with it, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, and this will kind of force the issue when in writing we lay down the sequence over the next, let's say, 6 weeks or so, and at the same time we'll of course mention the progress that you've made, ZG, along the way. I mean, of course they understand these things take a little while to work out, assays and so on, but I was thinking it might not be a bad idea to update them at some point soon.
Yeah.
Yep, that makes sense.
And I think, Bill, one more thing, maybe I just want to get an idea. How's the progress on the paper going? The response to the reviewers?
I got to do that, Vivek. To be honest with you, I haven't had time to sit down and do it, but I need to start going through that. And
it's due sometime in October, from what I understand.
I think it's October 3rd, so we still have a month or so, but it'll come up quickly because it is going to take a little while to address all those points for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to. That's fine. I mean, I just want to make sure that at least it's on the plate. That's it.
Yeah.
So
it definitely is.
Okay, it sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I'll break off, guys, and I'll send that paper with kind of the summary sequence here soon.
Sounds good.
Sounds great. Thank you, Bill, for all your help. Appreciate it.
Bye.
You guys have a good weekend.
Yep.
Thanks a lot.
Bye, Professor Clark. And Professor Nassenham, do you have a minute?
Sure. What's up?
Yeah, it's regarding the experiment. So I actually did a clearance experiment with the UF ultrafiltration rate to be 60 for the myoglobin. But back then we are only running a really small amount of time for 10 minutes. And we decided to prime the system for only 0.4 liter, and so that we can have more solution left to go up to around 18 minutes. But the problems regarding the reason we wanted to be use a longer time is because our mathematical models assume the time, the repeated time compared to the whole process time is really, really small, so that we wanted to include that in our sample. But I haven't done the 18 minutes models yet because for with the ultrafiltrations we will have to get 2 samples for each minute. The one is the concentration in the beaker, the other one is the concentration in the outlet, so that with this 2 number we can get the clearance level at each minute. But I remember I ordered some cuvette from the plastic cuvette because for 18 minutes that means we need 36 of the cuvette to get the samples. But if we're doing the dextrans, we don't need any cuvettes. We just need the refractometer. We just need a container to hold it. So we have no problems regarding the cuvettes. And so that's what I've been thinking. We probably do the dextran 20K first. And it's more economical in terms of the waste collection, the price, and the cuvette. And we can use the refractometer to get the clearance level with the dextran 20K. Does that make sense to you? That we stop.
I think that makes sense. If you do that, that's fine. And focus on the dextran 20K if you think that's makes sense.
And I totally understand that you wanting to do the non-fouling before the fouling, that we can fully understand what is going on with the PBS first, then move on to the BSA, right? But the thing about the HPLC is, I want to just confirm one more thing with you. We have talked to Professor Bedora's lab, the iLab, the Whistler Center, and the Natalie's lab recommended by Q. So these options are not available because of the systems. Some of them are organic. We need the aqueous systems, and they are hard to maintenance, and they don't want to lend to us to use. And sometimes from one system, so if some students are using the system for their experiments, we will have to switch the system to purge the system with the PPS for 2 days so that I can use it. So
Yeah.
I just want to make one point is the lower center, the PPS is really, really delicate and really good for us to use. And it looks like it's about ready to use for now. But when like after like November, I'm probably gonna leave for my new jobs, and when I'm gone, there probably no student is going to like catch up my work immediately. So the lower center facility might have to hold, and
So the question is, I mean, can you have Q work on this or what? Because I mean, in the end, he has to just bring the samples to Lore, right?
but he also have to do the clearance experiments, right? He will have to spend like 4 hours to do one experiment. That my point is like while I'm here, I want to do like as much as like experiments that I can and send it to Lore to analysis before.
Yeah, I understand you want to do a lot of experiments, but I think you can't. I think there's a value in doing things systematically rather than just doing as many experiments as possible and hoping something happens, right? I mean, I think if you have a clear plan going forward and it makes a lot of sense, then it makes sense to go through it. But if you're just going to do a whole bunch of results, I mean, if you're just going to do a whole bunch of experiments by kind of, shooting blindly, then it's not a good way of approaching things, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So, yeah, I think I understand what you mean, like doing the sieving coefficient instead of the clearance with the 60 ultrafiltration. Yeah, I feel like the sieving coefficient can get a more good sense of what the sieving looks like, because I feel like the clearance experiment is related to the sieving coefficients. So do you want me to do both the clearance and the sieving and see if there are a relationship between them?
Say that one more time.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Sure, I understand.
Yeah, so actually there are two types of experiments. The one is the sieving. It's what Professor Clark is going to send me the procedure. And the other one is what I already know and work, the clearance experiments. So do you want me to do the clearance with the UF rate of 60 inside out, outside in, and also do the sieving coefficient outside in and inside out, and to see if the sieving coefficient is related to the clearance?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think it would make sense to do the sieving coefficient experiments first, then the ultrafiltration. But if you think it's going to take you longer to do the sieving coefficient experiments because you're not as familiar, you can go ahead and get some preliminary results with the ultrafiltration. I think that's fine.
Yeah, I think what Professor Clark said is like regarding the sieving, there are no like zero ultrafiltration or non-zero ultrafiltration. It's set as like a certain amount of ultrafiltration to make that happen. But regarding the clearance, we can decide it. Yeah, I think we have a lot of data regarding the clearance at zero ultrafiltration rate at inside out. I haven't done the outside in yet. I would assume it's the same, but I haven't like proved it. Yeah, do you want me to like do the outside in first before moving on to the ultrafiltration rate? Yeah, do you want me to do the zero UF rate first?
Do the zero just to make sure. You should do that just to make sure you're confident in your measurements. Fawzat showed that if you do outside in versus conventional for zero ultrafiltration, you get the same clearance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you should be able to get the same result, right? Just to make sure.
So I should, like a sanity check again to do the.
Yeah, I mean, I want to make sure you're confident in your measurements, and I want to make sure I'm confident in your measurements.
Okay.
So do the zero ultrafiltration rate for either myoglobin or for dextran, and make sure and hopefully you'll get the same clearance rate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you get the same clearance and you're confident in their measurements, I'm happy. Okay with that. Then I think you can look at
go to
what
sieving.
happens when you do have sieving, when you do have net ultrafiltration, right? And what's important to understand is the sieving, right?
Yeah.
In that situation.
I totally understand you. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that makes sense as well. Yeah, all I worry about is the timeline, because I find the lore and I have a lot of like failures before I actually find lore. I actually want to make good use of the
Yeah.
facility.
No,
Yeah.
so I mean, you should definitely do the calibration this next week, right?
Yeah.
Definitely do that. But and I'm saying during this next week, you do your experiments not related to any fouling, because you're still getting calibration results from lore, right?
Okay.
And then the week after, maybe the week after, the next week after that, then you can think about maybe doing that. But this next week, don't do any fouling experiments, right?
I
Because
see.
you're still
Definitely. Definitely.
you're still getting results from lore, right?
Yeah. I'm not going to do any fouling, because once we do the fouling, we can't go back to the PBS.
Yeah, exactly.
I would not do until I get the permission. Yeah, that's definitely the story. And I want to confirm one last thing with you. So, am I going to be able to work through the 2 months before to November?
Oh, yeah. Let me. I need to talk to the business office, right? After this.
Yeah, the other thing I worry about is the funding. Because when I do more experiment, I need more raw material to buy the PBS to make the PBS solution. So yeah, I just want, and all the calibration in the HPLC facilities. So the price is still the same. It's $13 per injection, and I think we have incurred 6 injections like earlier when we're trying to get when we're getting this sample refractive index and the standard test. And what we are about to do next week with the BSA, there will be one sample test, 1 injection, and about 4 calibration tech, 4 injections, so total of 5 injections. Yeah, coming up next week. Yeah, so but they will only send you the bills monthly. Yeah, so you will be.
Yeah, I need to check. I need to check and see how much. Because I think we got like what? How much? 25K.
25K in total. I don't know how much I spent, but.
Yeah, and your salary. So how much? What are you getting paid roughly?
I think it's $20 per hour, and then $24. Yeah, around 1920 per month. 1920.
1920 per month. And you did 4 months, right? So that's 2,000 per month roughly, plus benefits. So you're gonna get, it's probably gonna be more than that. But anyway, so 2,000 times 4. So it's like 8,000 so far in salary, right? And you spent, I don't know how much on supplies.
Not much.
Yeah. So I'll go through and just double check with them.
Okay.
We'll see what exactly the funds look like. Hopefully, I think there should be enough. But because if you have 25K, and if you spent less than, and if you're looking only for 2 more months, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah, 2 more months.
If you're looking for 2 more months, that's basically $4,000 a salary, right?
Yeah.
Roughly.
Yeah.
So that should be hopefully okay.
Yeah.
So let me just double check with them. I think it should be fine. But I want to just make sure that the funds are okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I've been just busy with a bunch of other stuff, and I haven't gotten around.
No worry about that.
I apologize.
Yeah. No worry. Yeah. I think I'm pretty happy with doing the projects and everything. It's been fun.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time with me.
Yeah. Thanks again for everything.
Yeah. No problem.
Okay. Bye.
Have a good weekend. Bye.